So what's beautiful in this bill? There's actually three things that we identified that we think are beautiful elements of this bill. Let's start with the first one, the extra deduction that seniors get. So if you're a senior over the age of 65, under this bill, you get an additional $6,000 deduction on top of the already large standard deduction, $6,000 per person, which means an additional $12,000 if you're married filing jointly. That's beautiful. In many cases, seniors are living on a fixed income. They, have worked all of their lives to essentially amass some wealth. And when they get to retirement, it's kind of unfair that they're paying taxes almost at the same exact rate as the rest of us. So we think it's absolutely beautiful that they get an additional deduction. Hey, you've worked your whole life to get to this point where you should now be able to enjoy your life, enjoy some of the fruits of your labor and the money that you've saved up, do all the things that maybe you didn't get a chance to do when you were hustling and working. That we think is a beautiful element of this law, the help that it gives anybody over the age of 65, provided that they're at certain income levels. Number two, no taxes on tips and overtime. Now, there's some gimmicks to this part, and we'll talk about this also later in the brutal elements, but provided that you qualify for this, it incentivizes work. And that's the part that we think is beautiful. If let's say you're making $50,000 a year and now you've got an additional $25,000 a year that's coming from overtime, you can actually take that overtime now and not have to pay any taxes on it. Why is that beautiful? Because it incentivizes people to go out there, and if they have the time, to be able to take that extra time and make more money. And the government basically says, hey, we're not going to penalize you for that extra work. In many cases, when you work overtime, if you think about it, that's going to be taxed at your highest tax rate that you're going to hit. And now what we're saying is, no, if your company needs you and you agree to it, you can actually get that overtime tax free. We have a job and a worker shortage at this point to where a lot of companies are starving for qualified employees. And until we get all those qualified employees to come in and be able to take those jobs, some of the existing employees are just going to have to work a little bit more. And in this case, now we're incentivizing them by saying, hey, we're not going to penalize you for that extra dollar you're making. We're in fact going to give you that dollar tax free. Now, same thing with tips. If you're working as a restaurant worker or a hotel worker or anybody that really makes tips, in this case, up to $25,000 worth of your tips could be tax free. Now, what this is going to do, the reason why we think it's beautiful is because right now there's a lot of cheating in the tax system when it comes to tips. I want to tell you a quick story. When I first got my first job at a restaurant, it was kind of a known secret that nobody really declared their tips fully. You just declared enough to basically show that you were making minimum wage. There's just something hugely unfair to most of us that were making tips. A lot of us were college students or we weren't making tons of money. It incentivized almost this idea of like hiding it and lying about it. And now with the no tax on tips, you can declare all of your tips and you don't really have to worry about it because essentially you can tell the truth and the government's not going to tax you on something that basically you got out of just the generosity of somebody saying, hey, you did a great job. I'm going to pay you extra. Remember, a tip is not required. A tip is something that you give someone because they did a fantastic job and you want to give them extra money. We don't want to tax money that is above and beyond. That's why we think it's beautiful that tips are no longer taxed up to a certain limit, of course. The standard deduction being raised, we think is a beautiful way to reduce the complexity of our tax system. Our tax system today is so complex. And prior to the standard deduction being as big as it is now, a lot of people were really forced to do a lot of shenanigans to get their taxes down, right? Itemizing deductions, keeping track of medical expenses to see if they qualified above the limit, trying to itemize every little bit of interest on mortgages, home loans, state, local taxes. It creates a lot of complexity. Having one large standard deduction to where we can say, hey, if you're a married filing jointly couple, you get $31,500 standard deduction. A lot of people are going to look at that and say, well, do I really want to go to all this expense and headache to try to itemize? And maybe I'll get there. Maybe I won't, probably won't. That's beautiful. Being able to simplify and do your taxes faster is now going to reduce a lot of complexity for a lot of people. So there you have it, the three beautiful elements of this law. In the next video, we're going to talk about the brutal elements of this law. And not that I want to go negative, but we need to talk about the bad, the brutal, just the crazy stuff that is in this law. And there's plenty of it. So stay tuned for that video. Feel free to like and subscribe, comment on this video. If you think I'm crazy, if you don't think any of these things are beautiful, let us know in the comments section. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video.